Citizenship on the Go. Lesson 5. American History. International Wars. Part 3. The Spanish-American War. The last major war fought by the USA in the 1800s was the Spanish-American War. The Spanish-American War was fought all around the world, but it started in the Caribbean, with the island of Cuba. Cuba lies just south of Florida, which became a U.S. state toward the start of the 1800s. Since the time of Christopher Columbus, Cuba had been claimed as a territory of the Spanish Empire. In 1895, a war for Cuban independence from Spain began. Trying to maintain control, the Spanish military forced rebelling Cubans into concentration camps, where thousands died of disease and starvation. While the situation was truly terrible for the people of Cuba, updates about the camps spread by competing newspapers in the United States were often exaggerated and extremely sensationalized. The dramatically presented stories about Cuban victims of Spanish rule caused great anger and concern among the general population of the United States. At the same time, the struggles of the Cuban people for freedom and self-government were viewed more cynically by some power-hungry U.S. politicians and military heads as an opportunity to expand American influence in the Caribbean. A few years into the Cuban fight for independence, the U.S. sent the battleship Maine to Cuba's capital, Havana. The plan was to use the battleship to evacuate Americans in Cuba if the situation became too dangerous. A month after its arrival, however, a large explosion sank the Maine, killing most of its crew. What caused the explosion on the Maine is still debated today. Many investigators believe it was an accident. When news of the tragedy first reached the United States, however, the popular assumption among Americans was that the Spanish military was responsible. As public outcry mounted, the United States declared war on the Spanish Empire. The Spanish Empire was a global power, and the Spanish-American War was fought not only in the Caribbean, but also in distant parts of the world where the Spanish Empire had territory. The U.S. Navy battled the Spanish Navy in the Pacific Ocean around the Philippines and the island of Guam. The Spanish forces were defeated. As part of the peace treaty between Spain and the U.S., the United States gained control of the Caribbean islands of Puerto Rico and Cuba, as well as the Pacific islands of Guam and the Philippines. The Philippines and Cuba are not U.S. territories in the present day. Today, Cuba and the Philippines are independent nations. Puerto Rico and Guam, on the other hand, are still U.S. territories today. Even though Puerto Rico and Guam are not states, people born in these territories are automatically U.S. citizens. Civics test question. Name one war fought by the United States in the 1800s. Name one war fought by the United States in the 1800s. The Spanish-American War. The United States fought several wars in the 1800s. 3 international wars fought by the United States in the 1800s were the War of 1812, the Mexican-American War, and the Spanish-American War. It was also in the 1800s that the North and the South of the United States fought the Civil War, or the war between the states. Civics test question. Name one U.S. territory. Name one U.S. territory. Guam. Puerto Rico and Guam are the two present-day U.S. territories that were added to the United States at the end of the Spanish-American War in the 1800s. There are three other populated U.S. territories that were put under U.S. jurisdiction under different circumstances: the U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa, and the Northern Mariana Islands. Currently, the 5 permanently inhabited territories of the United States are Guam, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa, and the Northern Mariana Islands.